Holy shit, guys, we fucking made it. It is week 14 recap, which means it is the end of the regular season. That means that everybody now has a chance to win and or to avoid something in the coming weeks. So it's still interesting. There's still some things, whether you made the winner's bracket or not, that you're going to want to pay attention to. A lot of league history. We've been doing this for a while, so we all have people that, for one reason or another, we might be pulling for. Everybody has a different story that they could possibly capitalize on that I want to go through. And also to kind of take a look at our year in review to see what our regular season, how it unfolded. This would be the first time that we've had back to back years with this 14 game schedule. So a lot to reflect on and a lot to look forward to. So let's get right after it. And wow, did we have a fucking game of the week. And it did not end with a whimper, as sometimes it can at the end of the year. Jeff won by half a point over Lewis. Lewis almost got his third win of the year, couldn't quite get there. 106.5 to 106. Difference here, like I said, beware those Cardinals wide receivers. I don't know what it is, man. Cliff Kingsbury needs to be fucking fired. And the problem is, I don't know, with Kyler being hurt, how enticing that's going to be for a coach to come in and have to, kind of go through that storm. I heard that they might have liked to go after Sean Payton, but is he going to want to go there with Kyler hurt now? But anyway, Hollywood only got 7 points. He needed at least 8, and unfortunately he did not get that. So Jeff gets the win, 106.5 to 106. Hector gets the win over Joel, 124 to 118.5. Hopkins is another Cardinals wide receiver that just didn't get the job done. He got him almost there, but just not quite enough. And I'm sure that if Kyler was playing, it likely would have been different. Unfortunately, he only got 12 points, and he falls 5.5 points short, 124 to 118.5. Next up, Manny with the $10 end of season reward, the only one of the year for him, so he ends it with a plus, and he has a shot in the playoffs. 177 to 159. I got a good turnout with my team, but Manny just had it better. He's always seemed to have my number, and it continues. He got what he needed from his Patriot and Cardinals player. Nick Folk got 11, James Conner 24. So a pretty easy win for him. It looked like it could have been close early on, and then James Conner just kind of blew the game open. So, good game, Manny. Good luck in the playoffs, brother. Next up, Sam continues and makes sure that he controls his own destiny as best he can. 148 to 114 over Kyle. What I find interesting here is that it was two JJs at wide receiver, and it was that were double trouble for Sam. And it wasn't who you thought. Stephon Diggs only got him 6 points, but Jerry Jeudy and Justin Jefferson, 33 and 35 points respectively. Great game for him, and that was pretty much the difference there. If he only got one of those good games, it could have been a very different, because normally if you see Stephon Diggs kind of having a bad game, if I were to tell you that he was only going to get Sam 6 points, you probably would have thought Sam lost. But he does have depth, and that's what he's going to need going forward. Next up, Gus over Alex. This is one of 2 games that is going to be a rematch here. We're ending the recap actually with the 2 games that are going to be rematched right away this upcoming week. Gus wins 128 to 83 over Alex. Alex had only 4 people in double digits. Top score was 22. Gus had 6, and he had 2 players over 22, which was Alex's top scoring player. So that's the difference there. It was almost kind of like they were resting their starters in a way, the way that this came out, especially Alex and Carlos here, because they both scored exactly 83 points. Saheed won over Carlos 169 to 83. Saheed was guaranteed to at least keep that 2 spot. He had no control over if he got the 1, and Sam won, so he wouldn't have gotten it anyway. But he ties for the best record in the league. Guys, This is really cool to me. I think it's really cool that the top two seeds and tied for the best record in the league all year is the top team from last year and the worst team from last year, Sahid. I mean, that shows parity, it shows consistency, it shows all of the above. It shows you can turn it around, you can maintain, you can learn good habits and keep them. You can overcome maybe something that you did the year before and turn it around. So keep that in mind because all of us have some work to do if we're going to either maintain or turn it around next year. All right. But good job, Saeed. Great work. You definitely got the great end of the stick on some of these trades. They were all fair. They were all in, good spirit. And so far it's working out for you and you've been managing your team well. So he gets the second seed. This was pretty much a wash. His top three scorers were Evan Ingram with 40, Austin Eckler 25, Tyreek Hill 28. You add those together and he beats Carlos by 10 alone, 93 to 83. So that's that. So how does it end up? We've already gone through what it could be. I've already posted this, but let's just go through it real quick. We're going to go through the seeds 1 through 12. Then we're going to go through the power rankings, year in review, who scored the most points per game. How did that end up? It did end a little differently. And then we're going to go through the bad luck rankings, which is the teams that had the most points scored against them per game throughout the year. Then we'll get into the playoff preview. I'll recap the $10 awards and then just get into some final thoughts. So, first seed, of course, is Sam. He gets the bye. Second is Sahid. Then we got Jeff at 8 and 6 with the 3 seed. Alex at 7 and 7 with the 4 seed. Those are your division winners. Then we have Gus at 10 and 4, top wild card. Manny at 8 and 6, second wild card. Carlos sneaking in. The only player to get in with a losing record is Carlos at 6 and 8. Hector is first team out at 6 and 8. Joel is the second team out at 6 and 8. Then me at 5 and 9. Kyle at 4 and 10, and Lewis at 2 and 12. So power rankings, a little bit different, but it pretty much lines up with what you'd expect. Top scoring team for the year 2022 is Sahid. He averaged 146.2 per game, helped by his very strong finish. Sam is second at 145.5. Then Alex is third, 143.1. Pretty clear top three, which has been the case all year. Gus is next at 135.1. Manny, 133.1. Rounding out the top half of the league, Jeff at 132.6. And then going with playoff spots, rounding out the top 7, Carlos again sneaks in at 130.5. I found it funny that in all these lists that I did, the seeds, the power, and the bad luck rankings, Carlos wound up at 7th on every single one. Next is me. I am 8th at 128.3. Did have a turnaround in points per game, but it wasn't enough. Joel, then 125.6. Kyle at 125.4. Hector at 125 even. And then Lewis rounding up the rear. He did have a better end of year than he was having about halfway through, but he still did not average 100 points a game, 99.6. All right. So, bad luck. Again, this is what we don't have any control over, which is the points scored against us. In the real NFL, it does matter because obviously there's a defense on the field. There is nothing you can do to prevent your team from scoring more points. Case in point, in history, just in this week, I scored 159. I lost to Manny, who had 177. I was the third highest scoring team, but I still ended up with a loss. And, there are different ways to counteract that in fantasy, which, we'll go over in the Dynasty League. But nonetheless, it does mean that it's up to chance still largely if you win or lose. So I wanted to go through who had the worst luck in the league, is what I call it. It's nothing to be necessarily sad or disappointed about. It just is what it is. It tells a story because there are some surprising teams in and out of the playoffs that are on this list. For example, I technically had the worst luck. I had 140.1 points scored against me. I averaged 128.3. hence the 5-9 record. So you'd kind of expect that. Kyle, 140.0, just behind me. Same with Kyle. He ended up 10th. Then it gets surprising, and it does again tell the story. Alex is third on this list. He had 138 on average, and he was scoring on average 143.1. Well, what does that tell you? He was 7-7. I mean, he had some weeks he was just unlucky. He has a good team. He's in the top 3 scoring teams, but he's been unlucky. So he should feel encouraged going forward. He's one of those teams where it's like, well, I got in. I'm happy. Fuck it. I mean, I can score with the best of them. That's how he should feel, and he should at least feel comfortable with that. But at the same time, knowing that he hasn't been clearing away, just blowing everybody out of the water. He's had some high scores against him as well. So we'll see what happens, because again, it's all luck. They say the things that happen most often. So is it a sign of things to come, or did he kind of get a down payment on this in the regular season? Next up, Lewis. No surprise there, 137.1. It's all pretty tightly packed here too. There's not a whole lot of difference. Next up, Joel, 135. Then Jeff, 131.7. Again, Carlos at 7th, 130.2. Hector at 130 even. Sahid at 123.8. Gus had the third easiest, 123.5. Manny, 121.6. And Sam, 119.3. Why is that notable? Well, that's the entire best division, the Super Bowl division. That's that entire division in the bottom third, at the very bottom of unlucky teams, meaning they were the luckiest against them. So what do you take away from that? Is it, you all are going to suck in the playoffs, you're going to lose, Sam's going to be out because he had the easiest, 119.3. No, don't think that way at all, because keep in mind, Sam has been scoring with the best of them, 145.5 a game versus 119.3. That helped him get that 1 seed, but now that he has that 1 seed, he's still scoring with the best of them, so he has a very much an inside track to be able to get to the Super Bowl and win it. He only's got to win 2 games, and he's scoring a lot of good points. Same thing with Gus. Gus is 4th highest, and he's had the 3rd easiest. So, yeah, it's helped him get that record. It's helped him get the top wild card, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, because he's only winning because he's getting lucky. No, he's scoring well. Manny the same way. Manny is just behind him at 5th. So look out for all these guys, because that gets into the story that I was saying that every team is trying to write for themselves. Sam, obviously, he's trying to become the first back-to-back champion in this league. He has 1 champion last year, 1 championship, I should say. He's trying to win his 2nd and join the dynasty ranks. As far as the dynasty belt, which I've introduced before, I'll repeat it again, is this, and I'm thinking that we're going to be starting it this upcoming year. I want to see how these playoffs play out, but basically, depending on how it ends up, if somebody ends up with 3rd or if somebody's tied with 2, we're going to start a dynasty belt that'll cycle between teams with multiple championships. All right. Anytime that a team plays another dynasty team, the belt is on the line. It doesn't mean it needs to exchange hands right away, but we'll keep track of it, and it'll probably change hands at the next draft. So just an added bit of fun to the league. I'm going to see how this plays out first, to see essentially who gets it first. Either we'll start it with whoever has 3, or the person that last won a championship that has 2. Could be Sam, could be even Sahid this year. All right, so we'll see what happens there. But moving on from Sam, then we also have Sahid. He already has 1 Super Bowl. He's trying to go for his 2nd, and he is, of course, trying to join those dynasty ranks as well, same as Sam, but it's been a while since Sahid has won a Super Bowl. That was a long while back. I think it was maybe the 3rd or 4th year of this league. Carlos, who he is playing, is trying to win his 1st. He's trying to go from the joke of Car lost to Car win, and trying to shut me up forever, and he definitely would. Sahid and Carlos play this week. This is a rematch of what just happened. Carlos is 0-2. Sahid won both matchups. Sahid is favored by 31, and that includes that 5-point swing that's not calculated officially, but that he gets for being the home team. The scores have not been that close, 157 to 148, and then 169 to 83. All right. Jeff, third seed, he's trying to get his first Super Bowl, and he's playing Manny, who's trying to get his third. He's trying to be the first one to three, be the first dynasty, and probably I would say the closest cluster of championships in the least amount of time, because Manny joined us a little later in the history of this league. So Jeff is 1-0 this year versus Manny, 138 to 115 just 2 weeks ago. Back in week 13, Jeff is favored by 6, and that does include the 5-point advantage. All right. Alex gets a 5-point advantage versus Gus, and he might need it. It is 1-1. They both have split it this year. Alex won in week 3, 153.5 to 105. Both teams looked very different back then. Week 14, which was just last week, Gus just won 128 to 83. Right now, Alex is favored by 10, including that 5 points. Alex, of course, is trying to win his first Super Bowl. It wouldn't be his first one to get to like it would be for Jeff or Carlos, but he is trying to get that monkey off his back. He's going to have to do so and take the hard road as the lowest division winner, which means that he is unlikely to have a 5-point advantage going forward unless there's an upset. Gus, however, is going for his third Super Bowl. He is, of course, the commissioner and the founder of the league. And he is working to also become the first dynasty belt holder in the first to 3 championships. So we'll see how that plays out. This is also a rematch, like I said, of the game that just happened this past week. Kind of a fun wrinkle with that extra game that we now have. So besides that, in the loser bracket, we have 3 teams on bye. Nobody's playing. The only loser bracket game we have is the Matthew Dingleberry Toilet Bowl. Kyle is favored by 24 points versus Lewis. Lewis actually won their matchup. This was one of the 2 wins that Lewis has, 143 to 96. It was his highest scoring game, I believe. Won by a total of 47 points, and that was in week 12. All right, so that is the last one that Lewis had. Each is trying to avoid basically losing this. The winner gets to go on and play the highest remaining seed in the loser bracket. There will be basically a playoffs that'll play out, and the winner of that then gets that top pick in next year's draft. So the rest of us that are in that are me, Joel, and Hector, and we will await the result of the Matthew Dingleberry Toilet Bowl. Besides that, let's recap our $10 rewards. There are 3 of us who won 3 times. Sam, Alex, and Sahid, you each have made $30 back on the year. Sam got it in weeks 2, 9, and 10. Alex won 3 and 11, and Sahid had a 3-week skid of 5, 6, and 7 right in a row. Carlos came in second. He gets $20 weeks 4 and 12. Joel, Gus, and Manny each had weeks 8, 13, and 14 respectively. Each get $10 each. I wanted to go in a little bit more detail on these top scores. The highest score we had all year was week 2. Sam had 207 points. The lowest high score that we had was Sahid in week 6 with 153. The average high score of the week was 180.3, and the average score all year for anybody altogether was 130.8. So what does that mean? That means that on average, the high score of the week scored 50 points more than average for that week. How much is that? That's, basically either one huge game like a Josh Jacobs or Justin Fields type of game, or 2 players that go off very respectfully, 20 to 30 points each. That's really the difference in getting, $10 or not $10. And breaking it down more, we basically had 3 scores over 200. We had 6 scores over 180, which is that average. We had 4 scores that were under 170, which was kind of a benchmark that I had set for being in the low end of things there. So that is where we're at. Welcome to Wild Card Weekend. We have 4 teams on bye, one with a lot of hope, which is Sam. The other 3 who have a little hope for next year, which is me, Joel, and Hector. And then Kyle and Lewis are playing to avoid losing, essentially, and to move on with a chance for next year as well, to have at least a plus going into it and have an outside shot. To the rest, though, Saheed, Jeff, Alex, Gus, Manny, and Carlos, sincerely, good luck, guys. I hope this is a really good game. And since I don't really care what happens, because I have reasons to root for and against every single one of you, I really hope that it really comes down to the final plays on Monday night every single week, because why the fuck not? I mean, if it's not my heart that's in it, then fuck it. So, with that, peace, bunch, cap, and crunch.